People whispered that something strange lived in the mountains, but no one really knew what. The old folks warned children not to wander too far from the village, but Jacob was not a child. He was a young man with a calm heart and a quiet life. He lived alone in a small wooden house near the edge of the forest. He was a carpenter, known for building furniture that felt almost alive. He worked with care and kindness. Everyone in the village liked him, but he was always alone. No wife, no family, just the sound of wood and the birds outside his window. Then, one evening, everything changed. The sun was setting behind the hills, painting the sky with colors like melted gold and fire. Jacob was walking home from the market, carrying a sack of flour and some apples. As he passed a narrow trail that led deeper into the woods, he saw her. A woman stood by the path. She was dressed in a simple white gown, the kind worn in old paintings. Her long black hair flowed down her back like a river of night. Her eyes were the color of storm clouds, and her skin was pale as milk. But what caught Jacob's attention more than anything was her stillness. She stood like a statue, as if she had been waiting for him. Jacob stopped. "Are you lost?" he asked gently. She smiled, but her voice was soft, barely above a whisper. "No, I was looking for you." "For me?" Jacob said, confused. "Yes," she said. Her lips curved slightly, like she knew something he didn't. "My name is Ilara. May I walk with you?" He didn't know why, but he nodded. Maybe it was the way she looked at him, calm and sure. Maybe it was the quiet in her voice. Or maybe, deep down, he had been lonely for too long. They walked together through the trees, and she spoke in short sentences, asking about his life, his work, his dreams. She listened like every word he said mattered. When they reached his house, he offered her food and water. She accepted the water but didn't touch the food. When night fell, she asked if she could stay. "Just for the night," she said. Jacob looked into her eyes and agreed. He gave her the guest bed and went to his room. The next morning, she was still there. She had swept the floor and fed the chickens. She smiled and said, "I think I like it here." Days passed, then weeks. Ilara never spoke of her past. She said little, but her presence filled the house. She moved with grace, like a leaf floating on water. She helped in the kitchen, cleaned the tools in Jacob's workshop, and walked with him into the village. The people stared, not because she was beautiful, though she was. They stared because she felt different. Some said she was too quiet. Others said her eyes looked through you, not at you. But Jacob didn't care. He felt something he had never felt before: peace, warmth, love. And one morning, as they sat by the fire, he took her hand and said, "Marry me." Ilara looked at him for a long moment. Her eyes searched his face. Then she nodded. "I will," she said, "but you must promise never to ask about my shadow." Ilara blinked. "Your shadow?" "Yes," she said. "Never ask about it, never speak of it. Promise me." He thought it was strange, but love makes strange things seem small. He promised. The wedding was small. A few villagers came, curious and confused. Ilara wore a white dress and a wreath of wildflowers. Jacob had never seen anyone more lovely. They said their vows under the old tree behind the house, with wind rustling the leaves like soft music. And that was when Jacob noticed. As they stood side by side in the sunlight, his shadow fell long behind him on the grass, but hers was missing. There was no shadow. He remembered his promise and said nothing. Life after marriage was peaceful. Ilara was quiet but kind. She woke early and walked barefoot in the garden. Birds seemed to follow her. Flowers bloomed wherever she touched the soil. Jacob loved her more each day. But sometimes, in the corner of his eye, he would notice how the sun touched her, but made no mark on the ground. Even at noon, when shadows stretched sharp and dark, she cast none. It began to trouble him. He tried not to think about it, but others noticed. Villagers whispered, "Your wife has no shadow. What kind of woman has no shadow?" Jacob told them to stop talking, but the thought grew inside him like a thorn. One day, he followed her. She went into the forest. Her white dress moved like fog between the trees. Jacob kept his distance, hiding behind trunks and bushes. She stopped at a small clearing with a circle of stones. She knelt and placed her hands on the ground. Then she began to hum, a slow, sad sound like wind through dead leaves, and the earth around her glowed faintly. Jacob gasped. Ilara turned. "You followed me." He stepped into the clearing. "What are you doing, Ilara? What are you?" Her eyes filled with sadness. "You broke your promise." Jacob opened his mouth to speak, but stopped, because in that moment, as the clouds moved and light broke through the trees, he saw it again. Nothing. No shadow. Ilara stood in the sun, but the ground beneath her was bare. She took a step forward. "Jacob," she said softly, "do you still love me?" He didn't answer right away. His heart was beating fast. He felt afraid, but he also felt the memory of her smile, her touch, her laugh in the early morning when the chickens clucked too loudly. "Yes," he said at last. "Yes, I do." Ilara smiled, but it was a sad smile. "Then please," she said, "do not ask again." She walked past him, back toward the house. Jacob stood alone in the clearing, the stones still warm where she had knelt. The birds had gone quiet, and deep in his heart, a question began to grow. Who or what had he truly married? But even as the fear crept in, so did something else. Love. And love is not always born of understanding. Sometimes it is born of trust and of mystery. But the mystery was only the beginning. The truth waited in the shadows that Ilara did not cast, and Jacob could not stop himself from wondering, what happens when love stands in sunlight and the shadow never comes?
The days passed, but the questions in Jacob's heart did not fade. He tried to forget. He worked harder in his shop. He built chairs, tables, shelves. His hands moved with purpose, but his thoughts always wandered back to Ilara. She was still kind, still gentle. Her smile still made the world feel softer. But now, Jacob looked at her differently, not with less love, but with quiet fear. Each morning she stood at the window as sunlight poured into the house. The light touched her face, her hands, her dress, but never the floor. Jacob noticed more strange things. When she walked across soft earth, her steps left no prints. When she held a candle, the flame burned still, as if the air around her did not move. When she touched cold water, the surface never rippled. He never said a word. He had promised. But the weight of that promise grew heavier each night. One evening, as rain tapped softly on the roof, Jacob sat near the fireplace with a book in his hands. Ilara was by the window again, watching the sky. She turned to him. "Jacob, do you love me?" He looked up quickly. "Yes, of course." Her eyes searched his face, quiet and knowing. "Even now?" she asked. He stood, walked to her, and took her hand. "I do," he said. "But—" He stopped. "But you are afraid," she finished. He looked away. "A little." She said nothing more that night. But when they went to bed, Jacob lay awake long after her breathing grew soft and slow. The storm outside had stopped, but in his heart, the storm had just begun. A few days later, something happened that pushed him beyond silence. It was a simple thing. He was cleaning the large wooden mirror in their bedroom. It had belonged to his grandmother, carved with twisting vines and tiny birds. It had always reflected clearly, until now. Jacob wiped it with a soft cloth and stepped back. He froze. In the mirror, he saw his own reflection standing alone. Alone! Ilara stood right beside him in the room, watching quietly. But the mirror showed only him. Jacob looked at her, then at the mirror, then back again. His hands trembled. "Ilara," he whispered, "come stand here." She obeyed, stepping directly in front of the mirror. She smiled gently. But her image did not appear. The glass showed only the room, the walls, the curtains blowing in the breeze. No sign of Ilara. Jacob felt his breath catch. "Ilara, why can't I see you?" Her smile faded. "I warned you," she said softly. "You broke your promise again." "I didn't mean to. You aren't in the mirror. You don't have a shadow. You don't leave prints. Who are you? What are you?" There was silence. Then she stepped forward and took his hand. "Come with me," she said. He followed her, down the stairs, out the door, into the garden. The moon was full and silver, lighting the path ahead. Ilara walked barefoot to cross wet grass, but her feet stayed dry. They went past the garden, past the old oak tree, into the woods. The trees whispered secrets as they passed, leaves shifting without wind. Finally, they reached the clearing again, the circle of stones. Ilara turned to him. "Jacob, do you remember what you felt the first time you saw me?" He nodded. "Peace," he said, "like I'd found something I didn't know was missing." She smiled. "And do you remember what you said when you asked me to marry you?" "Yes," he said, "I loved you." "And you promised," she said. "You promised not to ask about my shadow." "I know," he whispered. "I didn't understand how hard that would be." Ilara walked into the center of the circle and knelt. "Jacob," she said, "there are things in this world that do not belong to your world. I am one of them." He stared. "What do you mean?" Ilara touched the stones around her. "Long ago, I came through a doorway, a thin place in the world where light and time bend. I came because I was curious. I saw your world, your colors, your skies, and I fell in love with it." She looked up at him. "And then I met you." Jacob's voice was quiet. "So, you're not human." Ilara shook her head slowly. "Not like you. I look like you. I feel like you. I love like you. But I am not born of this world. That is why I have no shadow. That is why mirrors do not hold me. That is why I left no past behind." He sat down on the grass, knees weak. "Are you a spirit? A ghost?" "No," she said. "I am real, I am flesh and breath, but I come from a place without sun, without shadows. We do not mark the ground. We do not belong in mirrors." Jacob looked at her hands. They were pale, but warm. He remembered the way she laughed when he made her a wooden comb, the way she whispered his name when she thought he was asleep. "Then why did you stay?" he asked. "If you do not belong here, why marry me?" Ilara's voice shook for the first time. "Because I wanted to know love. I wanted to feel it, taste it, build it. In my world, we do not love like you do. We live long, but we live alone. I wanted something more." Tears filled Jacob's eyes. "But you lied to me," he said. "No," she whispered. "I asked for your trust. I gave you all of me, except the one truth that would frighten you. I did not lie. I just waited." "Waited for what?" "For the day you would look at me and decide whether love is strong enough to carry the weight of mystery." Jacob looked up at the sky. The stars above the forest flickered like tiny eyes. He thought about their quiet mornings, their walks, the way she folded his shirts, the way she listened to him talk about his father. Then he looked at her. "I still love you," he said, "but I'm afraid." Ilara's face was sad. "Then let me go, Jacob. Say the word and I will walk back through the place I came from. I will disappear from your life, from your memories, from your dreams. You will forget me." His heart hurt. "I don't want to forget you." "Then you must choose," Ilara said. "Love me as I am, or let me go forever." Jacob said nothing. He watched the moonlight fall on the stones. He listened to the quiet breath of the forest. And he realized, love is not always a clear path. Sometimes it is filled with questions, with fear, with choices that make the heart ache. But sometimes the greatest love is the one that embraces the unknown. Ilara stood, waiting, and Jacob knew whatever he chose would change everything.
"What kind of bond?" Jacob asked, his voice shaking. Elara looked at him with eyes full of light and sorrow. "A bond between worlds," she said. "A thread now ties you to mine. You have seen the truth and still chosen love. That choice does not come without a price." "What price?" Jacob whispered. "You cannot stay as you are," she said. "If you truly want to be with me, you must cross the line between your world and mine. You must leave behind the life you've always known." Jacob stared at the glowing stones around them. The night felt colder now. The stars above looked sharper, like blades. "I don't want to lose my home," he said. "The trees, the sky, my shop, my people." Elara nodded slowly. "And if you stay here, Jacob, then you will lose me. I cannot stay in this world much longer. I am fading. Your sun burns my spirit. Your ground pushes me away." Jacob clenched his hands. He felt like a boy again, standing at the edge of a deep river, knowing he must jump, but fearing what waited beneath the water. "Can I visit?" he asked. "Go with you, but come back sometimes?" Elara shook her head. "Once you cross, the doorway closes behind you, forever." Jacob turned away from her and looked into the forest. The wind rustled the leaves softly, like voices trying to comfort him. He remembered building his first chair. He remembered his father's hands guiding his own. He remembered every sunrise, every morning spent with the smell of sawdust and wood oil. But then he turned back to Elara, and he remembered the quiet sound of her humming while she watered the garden, the way she touched his shoulder gently when he had bad dreams, the way she looked at him, not like he was a carpenter or a man, but like he was her home. He looked deep into her eyes.
"What is your world like?" he asked. Elora closed her eyes for a moment, as if tasting the memory. "Quiet," she said. "Quiet and deep. Our sky is soft silver, not blue. Our rivers move slowly, and the trees sing. We do not speak with words most of the time. We speak with feeling, with light. It is not loud like here. It is soft. It is still." "Is there love there?" Jacob asked. "There is now," she said, and smiled. He reached out and touched her face. "I will miss this place," he said. She nodded. Then he stepped into the circle with her. The glow grew brighter. The stones warmed the ground beneath his feet. He felt something shift in his chest, like a door opening inside him. "Close your eyes," Elora said gently. Jacob did. He felt her arms wrap around him. And then the wind stopped. The forest vanished. The air around him changed. It was thick like honey, but not heavy. It smelled of rain and something ancient, something endless. He opened his eyes. They stood in a wide open space, not quite land, not quite sky. The ground shimmered beneath them, soft and glowing. Above, a silver mist purled and danced like clouds that were alive. Creatures moved in the distance, slow, graceful, quiet. Some had wings, others floated, none had shadows. Jacob looked down at his feet. He had no shadow either. He reached for Elora's hand. She was smiling. "Do you feel it?" she asked. He nodded. "Yes." Peace. They began to walk. Trees like crystal grew from the soft ground, humming gently. Glowing flowers opened as they passed. The air was filled with warmth and silence, not empty silence, but full, the kind of silence that holds secrets, songs, and soft dreams. They came to a house. It looked nothing like Jacob's old house, but somehow he knew it was theirs. It had no walls, only soft light shaped like rooms. It breathed gently, like a sleeping animal. Inside, there were no beds, no tools, no wood, but there was comfort. There was belonging. Jacob sat beside Elora on a soft, glowing seat. "Will they remember me back home?" he asked. Elora placed her hand on his. "Maybe, maybe not. Your name may become a story, or it may fade like a leaf in the river, but your choice will echo." He looked into her eyes. "Was this real?" he asked. She leaned close. "All love is real," she said, "even the strange kind." Jacob closed his eyes again, and for the first time in a long time, he felt no fear, no questions, no doubts. Just love and peace and light, in a world where shadows could never follow, and where a stranger's heart had become his home. The end.